let's talk a little bit about spirit guides. We all have them, even if we're not aware of them, or if we're not on a spiritual path, or we are not really into self growth or new age kinds of understandings. We still have love from the other side in the form of higher beings who have once been here, just like we are on planet Earth, and have now evolved out of that vibration. They're no longer coming back as physical beings, and instead, their growth in some ways is furthered by their concern, their love, and their guidance for us that are still here in this physical world. Uh, Spirit guides communicate in such different ways, too, just like we do here on planet Earth. Um, some guides, we never know their name, even though we feel like we need to. They may feel as just more of an energy, or we might just have an awareness of being guided. And again, we might have no awareness at all. However, some guides, especially for those who are more spiritually attuned in the way of wanting to connect with spirit realm, those guides, not always, but sometimes will be more forthcoming in giving us a name or showing up in a way that would describe a period of time here on Earth, or a way of being. Examples: a monk, someone that we see, or we see an image of an older male that seems to be more from an Asian or meditative background. But sometimes guides show up as kind of like a friendly grandmother who is looking after us and warm and loving. They can show up as I had one guide show up one time with big galoshes on, kind of stomping through. It was a woman, a bigger woman, with big galoshes, kind of stomping through the mud. And part of that message was about helping me to get through, kind of mud, not physical mud, but just the kind of, energy that we sometimes have to find our way through that seems to be weighing us down, or kind of messy, I guess I'd say. But they can show up as anything, and there's always a message about how they show up for us. Now you may wonder, well, how do I know? How do I see them? How do I even get that kind of connection? And the interesting thing is that when we're ready, when we want to connect and see, and when I say see, I'm talking about visually, internal sight, but I'm also talking about see as in know. Sometimes inner sight is not visual, it's more a sense of I know that's what they look like, or I feel that's what they look like, or I sense what that's like. This is the vibe I get. So don't make the mistake of thinking that if you don't see a guide visually, internally, very clear, then you're making it up. Or even if you see it, you're making it up. Or if it is not as clear as you would like it to be. But again, you're thinking, feeling, sensing what it's like. Go with it, because internal sensing is not like external sensing. There's more texture, there's more multi layers in terms of seeing coming in different ways, feeling even coming in different ways. So, however it works for you, trust it and move forward. Don't spend too much time trying to prove your own self, because that's a losing game. The best way to work with it is just to go forward with what we get. And if it is something that doesn't have a lot of energetic legitimacy, we'll say, it will start to dissipate. So when you do want to connect, put that out there and then notice. Maybe spend some quiet time, close your eyes, invite a spirit guide to be close. And again, just pay attention to what you receive. Sometimes guides will come through as signs in our everyday life. They'll leave feathers, or certain birds will come to the window and kind of stare at us, or sometimes there'll be some synchronicity that's the answer or a message in that from one of our spirit guides. Our spirit guides are more concerned with our spiritual evolution, our growth. It doesn't mean they're not going to maybe at times address our physical everyday concerns. Of course, that's part of it, but it's always going to be in service to a higher cause. And sometimes that leaves us perplexed that what we receive may not come in the form from the spirit guide in the way we would want it to. But spirit guides, keep in mind, are working at a little bit of a different agenda than we humans are. Even when we're spiritually based, it can seem that we don't quite understand what we're getting. However, keep in mind also that it doesn't matter all the time if we understand it. It really doesn't. That's just speaking to the thinking brain that's trying to figure it all out. Any connection with a spirit guide, even if it's just inviting them in but not even being sure if they show up, is always going to be an energetic exchange. It's going to be we're receiving something on a higher vibrational spiritual level, and that has an impact on us. Their concern isn't always to talk to our thinking brain, mind that wants answers a certain way. They will often bypass that to create more of a shift in our life in a way that maybe doesn't show up that day, that hour, but it sets in motion certain circumstances, opportunities, um, increased self-awareness, increased intuitive abilities. So just know that however you approach a spirit guide, in terms of whether it's through meditation or request or an interest, something that just you're kind of just toying with, extend an invitation and then let go of how that shows up. I do recommend maybe, spending some quiet time, meditating, allowing them to come in. If there is direct messages to you, you certainly want to receive that. At the same time, don't get too hooked up, I guess, with believing it has to come in that way. There are a multitude of ways that spirit guides can show up, will show up, and want to show up. But just allowing that energy in will always have a positive impact on you. Thank you.